Welcome back into the Horse Racing Show, episode number 47. I'm Kenny Rice. Glad that you're joining us and happy to add to it along with iHeartRadio and Stitcher 93.9 in Louisville, WVLK Radio in Lexington, Kentucky, the heart of horse racing, as they say in Kentucky. And what else, Thomas, Kenny? Everywhere. We're all over the place. This guy's all over the place. I've run into him at basketball arenas and at horse racing tracks, and he covers them outstandingly. You might have read him in the Philadelphia Inquirer, now in the Philadelphia Daily News, sometimes in the racing form, on TV. Ubiquitous Dick Jerardi joins us. Dick, welcome in.
Thanks, Kenny. How are you doing?
How's that introduction, okay?
Perfect, man. Doesn't get any better than that.
You're on your way back, I understand, right now. You saw Penn State pull the upset of Maryland last night.
I did. I'm on the radio team. I'm the analyst for Penn State basketball. I've been doing it for 16 years, and I did see it. And I can tell people out there this is the best Penn State team in my time doing it by far. They're really good.
And, that's what I love about basketball is the way momentum can change and big swings in a game and, 14-2 runs and things like that. That's what I love about the sport, how it can instantly change around.
No question. And it's interesting. Penn State this year, for the most part, has made their momentum swings really early in the games. They've jumped teams. And teams just haven't been able to come back, and that's exactly what they did to Maryland last night.
It's not good being undefeated right now, is it? I mean, I'm looking at Duke and Kentucky, and number 1 Louisville loses last night, and number 4 Maryland loses last night. Butler loses last night. It's tough at the top or near the top.
Yeah, good luck to anybody in early December trying to pick a Final Four or a national champion. I've actually gotten to the point the last, I'd say, 10 years or so. I certainly pay attention to the games early, but I really start paying attention on February 1st because that's when you're going to really see the teams that are going to be playing in March.
I think you're right. And, with a few exceptions, sometimes you see a team that's going to be really good. Recently, like Villanova, the second time around especially, I think you looked and said, hey, this team's going to be really good. Keep an eye on them. But I'd like it a lot when people get excited about December basketball. To me, it's like that 2-year-old that has a big race in midsummer. Okay, they might still be around in the fall. They might rarely be around when we start talking about the Derby Trail.
It's my horse racing training that actually got me, Kenny, to start realizing the same thing with college basketball. Your analogy is 100% correct. There's very few teams that I've been able to see in November or December and say, hey, they're going to win it all. One I can tell you about, I saw the Anthony Davis Kentucky team.
Yeah.
Penn State's third game that season was up at Mohegan Sun against Kentucky. I said to my partner, I said, we'll be seeing them in April cutting down some nets. You could tell how good they were.
Yeah, and that's one of the few I'm not a big one-and-done fan. Kentucky did it because of Davis. Way back in the day, Syracuse did it with Carmelo Anthony. Duke did it with the trio of freshmen that they had in not too long ago. But this one-and-done, Dick, I like a team like a Penn State. I like these teams at Butler, got a nice team this year that have guys that stay around.
No question. It's interesting. Penn State, for the first time since Coach Chambers has been there, their 2 best players are seniors. And anybody watched the game against Maryland, Mike Watkins, the shot blocker, is going to be the second all-time leading shot blocker in school history. And Lamar Stevens is probably going to end up being the all-time leading scorer. So, yeah, when you have really, really good seniors, that's what plays in March and April, no question.
I think it's a lot like trainers. Some guys, to keep a look at every year. They're going to be in the mix. Like, you look at certain coaches every year. They're going to have a team that's going to be ready. We're talking with Dick Jerardi, by the way, Philadelphia News, many other outlets. He's on the Penn State network, basketball network as well. But, you've got, Baffert, Pletcher coming in, Chad Brown, they're going to come in. There's some coaches coming in. But then you have these guys coming up, like at Penn State and some other places where you go, well, they got something to look at. Texas Tech, they've got something to look at. That's what I like is when the new blood comes into the game, either game.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about it. And it is fascinating. I mean, Chad Brown was kind of an unknown in horse racing even 10 years ago. Now he's the dominant trainer. My analogy for him would be Brad Stevens. When he started at Butler, I remember watching him, Kenny. I was down in Birmingham with St. Joe's one year. This has got to be, 07, maybe about 12 years ago in the NCAA tournament. And they were playing Oklahoma at night. So I went over to watch the afternoon games. And it's the first time I'd ever seen Brad Stevens. And I said to a couple of friends of mine, I said, look, I don't know how this is going to end, but man, is this guy cool on the sidelines. boy, does his team play beautiful basketball. Never knowing, of course, they'd be in the national championship game 2 years in a row, which is one of the great feats in the history of college basketball.
You know, I remember one of the last times I saw you at a gym. It was my pleasure to be at the Palestra. I love like going to old racetracks. And, obviously you talk about like Saratoga or some of the history of there, Churchill with the Derby, all that history. But to go to old gyms or old stadiums, I love that. And I was fortunate. I was calling the College Basketball Invitational back then. And I did a game at the Palestra one night. I saw you up there. We're doing a Penn game. And then the next night, I'm actually in it was not a great year for Butler. They were playing Pittsburgh when Dixon was still coaching Pittsburgh, and they played the game at Hinkle Fieldhouse in Indianapolis where Butler plays. So to go to those two venues back-to-back nights, I mean, I just love the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, that's impressive. Those are two of the great gyms. You and I should have a contest one day, Kenny. See who's been in more gyms to see college basketball games. I'm up to about 170 now. I put together my list a couple of years ago. And the Palestra, of course, if anybody ever gets to Philly, that is absolutely, it's on the campus of the University of Pennsylvania, but at one time, all the Big Five schools, St. Joseph, South Villanova, Temple, and Penn played almost all their games in there. It's such a cool place, as Kenny said, to watch a game. If you're my other favorite is Allen Fieldhouse at Kansas.
Yeah.
The Palestra is basically Allen Fieldhouse in half. They don't have an upper deck, but it's just such a great place. And yeah, Hinkle is. I've seen some games there. What a neat place that is in Indianapolis.
You got me beat by about 50 gyms, I think.
Okay. Well, when I whooshed by everybody is when I started doing this Penn State thing, because I'd kind of maxed out all the gyms for the Philly teams. I'd been in just about everywhere in the Northeast. But yeah, now all of a sudden I'm going to places in the Big Ten, and that's definitely helped my agenda for gyms.
Dick Jerardi is our guest. We're talking a lot about basketball, obviously, right now, but you cover horse racing so extensively and so well, and I guess that's where we first met at a racetrack many years ago. And isn't it great that we still talk to people and they still talk to us? That's nice.
That is nice, Kenny.
That's nice.
It's a great thing.
But
people always ask me, what's your favorite sport to cover? And I always tell them it's horse racing because I love the people at the racetrack.
And, and there's so many layers, as you know, with every story. I mean, my goodness, you've written thousands of stories. So, you got the owner, the trainer, the breeder, the jockey, the horse itself. I mean, there's just so many layers to the sport. That's what intrigued me when I first started covering horse racing.
No doubt. And, when I first got into it, I got into it as a player more so than a writer. I was a journalism major at the University of Maryland. But I first got to the track. Some guys introduced me to it that I played poker with at college. And I said, man, this is cool. And that's kind of how I learned the history of the game. And then I got into it. I didn't grow up with it. Then I got into it to cover it just because it just was so fascinating. Because it's just not like any other sport. I don't have to tell you that, Kenny. But yeah. The people are so happy to talk to you, and there are stories out there. I mean, you can't make up stories like Smarty Jones. I mean, that was an awesome story to have. It's a 15-year anniversary, and we had Smarty Jones come back to Parks to parade around the racetrack right around on Labor Day this year, and it was awesome. And just the feeling that horses engender in people and just the stories behind them, nothing like the racetrack.
Nothing at all. We're going to talk more basketball, horse racing, and whatever else we want to with my friend Dick Jerardi when we come back here on the Horse Racing Show. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Horse Racing Show. I'm Kenny Rice. Thank you for tuning in, listening to us on one of the many media outlets that we're now proud to be a part of. Happy to catch up with a longtime friend, Dick Jerardi. Writes now for the Philadelphia News, used to write for the Inquirer. You probably read him in the Racing Form or other publications, or maybe you curse him because you've tried to go head-to-head with him in a handicapping contest like the recent Breeders' Cup, and he has beaten you. Dick Jerardi, our guest. Good job, by the way, in the Breeders' Cup handicapping contest.
I appreciate that, Kenny. I mean, it's my favorite contest to play, and I play in a bunch, but I really like the live money contest because it more emulates what you're doing at the track every day when you're out there playing. And yeah, I hit a big one in the second to last race, that Breeders' Cup turf. I had a Brixton Mortar over a 50-1 shot and cashed out pretty good in the exacta.
And is there a key to this? Because you've done so well with handicapping tournaments. I know a lot of handicappers listen to us, and guys that, play either serious or, for fun, some casual tournaments. Is there a key to being a good tournament player?
Yeah, I think you have to approach it differently. First of all, from the regular racetrack day. And the one thing I tell people, you got to have a money goal. What are you trying to get to? And have a plan. Typically what I do is I try to, whatever the entry fee is for the contest, I try to get to 10 times what the entry fee is. So in that contest, it's 10,000 to get in the Breeders' Cup contest. So I'm trying to get to 100,000 and then see what that does. So you got to have a plan to get there. And typically you got to have multiple plans because everything's not going to work out. You better be having audibles. And it was interesting. The turf race was actually, I think, about the fourth or fifth chance I had to get to 100. But I planned it out that way that I would have enough money to make a certain amount of bets that if any one of them hit, I could get there. And the other thing is you got to fire, Kenny. You can't be scared. You just got to go. If you're scared, you probably shouldn't be playing. And it's fun. I like competing, and that's really competition. None of us are playing anymore, but that's kind of like playing. And a real good buddy of mine, Ray Tannehill, and I won the World Series of Handicapping in Penn National way back in 1993. We also finished second and third, and he's really the guy who helped me through contests. Sadly, he passed away in 2015, but I definitely, anything I do is in his memory and with him anytime I'm playing a contest.
Oh, that's wonderful. And, Dick, and like you say, it's like basketball. If you go in there and you see the opponent has fear in his eyes, the coach looks a little shaky before the game. If you could get something down quickly in Vegas, you're going the other way.
No doubt. I mean, the bet that I hit on, I had a $2,000 cold exact in the Breeders' Cup turf. And there's not a lot of people that are willing to make that bet. That's just kind of how I've always played. And when I mapped it out, again, I had I think 4 or 5 different races that I was trying to hit something big on. You just got to believe in what you believe in. And if you have a conviction, don't back off. Just go for it. And as I said to somebody, said, well, what would have happened if it came the other way or you didn't hit? I said, I still got on the plane the next day and come home. Wasn't going to change anything.
Dick, is it Bricks and Mortar the horse of the year? We talked about him winning.
Yeah, I think so. 5 grade ones, all different racetracks, never lost. Won the biggest turf race of the year. I mean, it was such an oddball year, Kenny, in that we didn't have a superstar older horse like we've had in recent years. Yeah. No Gun Runner, no California Chrome. We did not have a Triple Crown winner, which is crazy, but we've had 2 of them. And recently, when it was obvious. So then you have to go somewhere else and you say, well, who was consistently great all year? The answer is Bricks and Mortar. I think Matoli will get votes, and I think he should get votes. And I think you can certainly make a case for the Derby winner for 20 minutes to get some votes too, because he just had a phenomenal year. There's no doubt that he'll be the 3-year-old champ, but I'm not sure he's quite got the resume to be horse of the year because he technically obviously didn't win any of the 3 Triple Crown races.
Yeah, and I think had he run in one of those Triple Crown races, I think
the
maximum security.
Won it.
Yeah, if you had run in, say, the Belmont, okay, I know they're all ticked off and they're going to miss. If you had run in that and tried to be groomed to run in the Jockey Club Gold Cup or maybe then go on to the Breeders' Cup, he gets a lot more attention, right? I know he's winning, but he's not winning the races that everybody sees.
No doubt, and I think that was the intention was after they skipped the rest of the Triple Crown, they got him ready to run in the Haskell where he was terrific. Then they were going to run him in the Pennsylvania Derby and then go to the Breeders' Cup Classic. And if you remember, Kenny, he got the colic the week of the Pennsylvania Derby. He would have won that race for sure, given how the race was run. And if he'd have come back after that and won the Breeders' Cup Classic, then he would have been the horse of the year. That would have been sufficient. He would have knocked out Bricks and Mortar, even though Bricks and Mortar had that great year, because the reality is we typically, when you have a dirt horse who's had a great year, that's going to be your horse of the year.
Dick Jerardi, who's the 2-year-old of the year? That's a wacky year, isn't it? I mean, especially with that bomb that comes in, and who's gonna win this now? I don't know.
I have no clue. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. I was trying to think about that the other day, and I said, you know what? I'm not thinking about this. It's too confusing. Yeah, the bomb that wins the Breeders' Cup, whose name escapes me at the moment, you were thinking
Storm the Court.
Storm the court. There we go.
Yeah.
You were thinking that maybe the horse that's going to get the Barclay Tag horse is going to get and win the Kentucky Jockey Club, but he runs third. So yeah, there's no vote that you're going to feel real comfortable about voting for the 2-year-old champ this year.
Yeah.
Good luck trying to make a future book bet on the Derby right now. I got no clue.
I tell you, there are going to be some odds on that, isn't there?
Yeah, if you're right, you can make a bunch. And we'll never have one like 2 years ago when they were offering 40 to 1 on Justify after he broke his base. Well, oh my Lord, that's my only ever future book cash. But 40 to 1. You'll love this story too, by the way. After his next start, I texted Bob Baffert. I said, Bobby got it, whatever this buyer figure was. I said, no pressure, but I got him at 40 to 1. Bob texts me back and he says, yeah, and I got him at 300 to 1. He knew.
Proving once again that Bob Baffert and Dick Jerardi know their horses.
No, he knows better than me. I got to wait for him to run a little bit first.
The Baffert thing's just phenomenal. We talk about him almost every other week on this show. Somebody brings him up like I am now. But he's kind of like, he's kind of like Krzyzewski out there. To me, every year, there's always that possibility. And I think every year Duke is always that possibility on the court.
Nah, it's a great comparison. I mean, the fact that he's won 2 Triple Crowns and wasn't all that far from winning like 3 more.
Yeah.
I mean, Point Given was unlucky in the Derby. He just got caught up in that hot pace. And obviously, he had real quiet misses winning the Triple Crown by an inch. It's amazing. He could literally have had 5 Triple Crowns in the last 20 years.
Yeah, I think if you go, let's see, a length of a horse, roughly about 1/5 of a second. So if you look at how Silver Charm just barely lost less than a length, and real quiet in less than a second, Bob Baffert could have had 2 more Triple Crowns.
Absolutely,
and you're right. Point Given was the best horse that year, just a bad Derby.
No question. No, it was just one of those. It happens in horse racing. We see it all the time where the circumstance overtakes talent, and things happen inside races that compromise the best horse, and that's what happened that day. But yeah, I actually think that Point Given was as good as any of the 3-year-olds he's ever had, including his 2 Triple Crown winners.
Wow, you know what? I cannot argue that point. I did too. I thought he was a Triple Crown winner.
Yep. Yeah, one of my great.
Going into it, I thought he could.
Yeah, you'll love this one too, Kenny. The day before that Derby, Point Given's Derby, my lead to my column was Point Given is going to win the Triple Crown. Well, my lead to my post-Derby story was Point Given is not going to win the Triple Crown.
Oh, that's why you are one of the best, my friend. Dick, I really appreciate you being on. Please come back.
Absolutely. Anytime, Kenny.
You can read him in the Philadelphia Daily News, listen to him on the Penn State Basketball Network, and all over the place. Dick Jerardi. More coming up on the Horse Racing Show right after this.